Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you halfway through another week. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine over here in the UK. Apologies, as I said in my earlier videos, I think it was the last one was on Sunday. I think it's been a bit hit and miss at the moment, balancing half term and everything with normal work. But the kids are back to school now, so hopefully I'm going to have a bit more time to pop on here and keep you as updated as I can with all things Arsenal as we head towards the Euros and head towards the transfer window picking up. As always, at the moment, transfers pretty much dominated pretty much everything in terms of international wise. Not too much going on at the moment. A little bit of a lull before the tournament starts this weekend. Fingers crossed Bukayo Saka is okay for England in that, obviously suffering with that little bit of an injury which kept him out of the Romania game, but fingers crossed he will be back because it's going to be a huge tournament for Saka. If you haven't read it, please do head over to my social media channels, find it on Twitter, and I did a big piece on Saka yesterday, sort of detailing his rise really from right the way through from school at Greenford High School as a youngster, sort of 11, 12-year-old, right through to now to the Arsenal Player of the Season and England squad. So please do have a look out for that one. But let's talk about transfers, shall we? And specifically look at the Arsenal midfield, because that's where a lot of the attention is right now in terms of possible incomings and outgoings. We'll start with the outgoings with Granit Xhaka, who is edging closer now to his Arsenal exit. He's been here since 2016, Granit Xhaka, but looking more and more likely that this will be his last few days, few weeks, however long it takes to get this deal over the line as an Arsenal player, and he will be playing for Roma in Serie A next season. Now, it's not done and there's still plenty of work to do on this one. As far as I'm aware, there is no deal agreed yet for Xhaka between Arsenal and Roma, but we are getting there in terms of talks. It was quite a long way apart in valuation not so long ago. The sound is now that both clubs are working pretty hard to get something done and that everyone wants this wrapped up pretty quickly. There's a willingness on all sides, I'm told, to get this deal over the line relatively quickly. Obviously, Granit has got the Euros coming up with Switzerland. He'd like to have his future sorted before then. We're running out of time for that to happen. But I'm not saying it won't yet before the weekend, but we are running out of time because the internationals are coming through pretty quickly, and I'm not sure you'd want the whole medical type thing to get in the way with that, but we'll have to wait and see. But certainly from the club side and from Xhaka's side, everyone is working to try and get this deal done. Everyone wants to get it done as quickly as possible. Arsenal accept that the time is kind of right for Xhaka to move on now. 2 years left on his contract. He's 28. He's been here a long, long time. Doesn't seem like he's too keen to stay and sign a new contract either, so you've got to kind of make this decision, haven't we? You've seen so many times Arsenal players get into the final year of their contract. They've got 2 years left now, so the time is right to make a decision. Give them a new contract or sell, and that decision certainly at the moment seems to be sell. Arsenal want about £20 million for Xhaka, give or take around that figure, potentially more if they can. But Roma initially only wanted to pay around £15 million. Now the sides are going to have to come and reach a sort of acceptable compromise, and that's where we are at the moment. But I'm told the talks are very, very amicable. No one's getting annoyed. Everyone's working pretty hard to get this one done so that everyone can move on. Arsenal want to get it done so they can look to bring on replacements. They want to know exactly what the sort of situation lies with Xhaka. Xhaka wants to get it done, because he's got Switzerland to look at, but he also wants his future sorted just in terms of sort of mentally and family and planning and everything like that. And obviously Roma and Jose Mourinho very much want to take Xhaka to the Italian capital. So it's one that's looking more and more likely. We're not there yet, but it's looking more and more likely that Granit Xhaka will end his time at Arsenal. Like I said, arrives at 2016. How do you describe Granit Xhaka? I mean, he's such a divisive player, isn't he? Even now, you look at the reactions, so many Arsenal fans don't want to really sell Granit Xhaka now, but then there's plenty others who are delighted to get him out of the club. He's always been that kind of divisive figure. Some love him, some hate him. And I don't think whatever outcome that happens in this transfer negotiations in Roma, there'll be some people happy and some people are upset. And I think at the moment, the people who are going to be upset it's looking more and more likely they're the people who rate Granit Xhaka and want him to stay at the club, because it's looking doubtful now, because Arsenal need to get some money and they want to do this big rebuild this summer. I've talked about it plenty of times. Lots of people have talked about it plenty of times. We know how much work there is to do it this summer. Arsenal need to get things moving now, because we're already moving into it. It's a couple of weeks since the end of the season. Nothing really has happened yet, so Arsenal need to get things moving, and maybe this is the thing that's going to get things moving. Get Xhaka out the door, get some money in, then start looking at his potential replacements. And we know one of those potential replacements could well be from Wolves, in the shape of Ruben Neves. It's an interesting one, this Ruben Neves story, because again, it's kind of very similar to Granit Xhaka. I've been off basically since end of last week, but I've been keeping an eye on what's been going on, and the Neves story obviously broke while I was off. And just seeing the reaction on social media was quite interesting to it, because a lot of people don't really see it as an upgrade, and they think it's kind of just like for like. Here you got Xhaka, who's decent passer of the ball, that sort of thing, not the most mobile. And then you got Ruben Neves, very decent passer of the ball, probably scores more goals than Xhaka, or certainly has more shots than Granit Xhaka. But again, not the most mobile, and a lot of people want to see more mobility brought into this Arsenal midfield. They want that type of player like Yves Bissouma at Brighton. And so there's been a lot of disappointment over the links with Ruben Neves. Now, my understanding of this situation is that Arsenal are interested in Ruben Neves. There has been talks with Wolves. I don't think there's been a bid. I certainly haven't been told there's been a bid. I think it's at the talk stage at the moment. Again, there's a willingness in Wolves to get potentially let Neves go this summer. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Wolves are going for a bit of an overhaul as well. The change of manager, they need a bit of a refresh, and the money they could bring in from someone like Neves can help with that. And Arsenal and Wolves are discussing the idea. Arsenal are interested in Neves as a possible replacement. You can see where he fits in at Arsenal, absolutely. But certainly there's plenty of you out there that don't really see it too much of an upgrade on Xhaka. And personally, for me, look, I really like Ruben Neves. I remember watching Arsenal lose. It was the season when they chucked away the Europa League, the Champions League spot, really, the Unai Emery's first season, when they lost those games right at the end of the season. They drew at Crystal Palace and they lost at Wolves, lost at Leicester. And I remember that Wolves game, Neves was absolutely brilliant in that midfield that day. And I remember thinking, God, I'd love to see him at Arsenal. Had a difficult season, as did everyone at Wolves last season, and maybe that's why his star has fallen a little bit in terms of some fans. I think at the end of that first season at Wolves were in the Premier League, if you'd have said Arsenal wanted Ruben Neves, I think there'd be an awful lot of excitement about him coming. I think this season, because he's had a bit of a struggle, not quite hit the heights he hit beforehand, maybe that's why there's not as much excitement about the prospect of him moving to Arsenal. But he's a quality player. He's only 24, so he's going to get better. You would think he's got better. He's not reached his peak yet. He's a leader. He's an international for Portugal in a very good Portugal team. When you look at his stats are good, certainly in terms of ball recoveries, interceptions, things like that. If Arsenal under Mikel Arteta, they want to win the ball quickly. They want to turn things over and get the ball forward as quickly as they can. You look at Neves' stats, and it certainly appears that he's ahead of Xhaka in that regard in a lot of those areas. And so I can see the reasons for and against it. I think the main thing is also that valuation. £35 million Wolves are looking for Ruben Neves. I'm not sure Arsenal are that keen on paying that, and that's where these talks are going with the clubs at the moment. Can you get a lower valuation for that on Neves? I mean, he is 24, so you've got to take that into account. There's a lot of there's a high ceiling for him to go to. Perhaps there's also a lot of sell-on value with Ruben Neves. That's why Xhaka potentially is about 20 million, because he's 4 years older than Ruben Neves. And I think Arsenal will certainly look to try and get that price down if they can. But if Wolves aren't willing to budge on that, then maybe that's the price they're going to have to pay to bring in someone like Ruben Neves. I don't think by any means he's the only target. From what I understand, there's other players as well that Arsenal are looking at as potential Xhaka replacements. But Neves is certainly one on the list that they are talking about and have had discussions about so far. So it's one to keep an eye on. Please do let me know. I'm always intrigued to see what you guys have got to think about it. What do you think about Xhaka leaving? What do you think about Neves going? Would it be an upgrade? Would Arsenal be a better team for that next season? Can you see Thomas Partey and Ruben Neves being a good partnership, or do you think you need a little bit more in that midfield? Would you prefer to see a Bissouma, or do you think Arsenal needs to go over three-man midfield? Now, personally, I think Arsenal are going to have to bring in more than one central midfielder. I can't see if you let Granit Xhaka go, I can't see that just Ruben Neves is enough, because obviously you've got the Torreira Guendouzi situations. You've got Maitland-Niles, who I'll get to a little bit later in this video. He's been talking about his future. You've got Dani Ceballos has gone back to Spain. You've got AFCON next season, which Thomas Partey and Mohamed El Neni are going to be involved in. Your midfield options aren't fantastic in that centre, that centre of the pitch. So I'm not sure that Ruben Neves is going to be enough. I haven't been told anything. Arsenal will definitely be looking to bring in 2, but you would expect, just from the size of numbers, that 2 have got to be on the agenda when it comes to central midfielders this season. Because it just doesn't feel like, even if Neves signs, that they're going to quite have enough in the squad to cope with potential suspensions, injuries, that type of thing. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see more than just Neves arise when it comes to the central midfield. That's certainly an area that Arsenal are going to have to concentrate on during the upcoming transfer window. So we'll talk about central midfielders. We've been talking about Neves, Xhaka. There's Matteo Guendouzi as well. Lots of reports about him and Marseille at the moment. Arsenal obviously very happy to let Guendouzi go this summer, given what's happened. We all know, I'm not going to go over it again, with him and Arteta and all that. So Arsenal are keen to get something sorted with Guendouzi. He has got a year left in his contract, but the one boost that Arsenal do have is that they do have an option to extend his contract by a further year, and that certainly gives them a lot more room to manoeuvre in the transfer market. It doesn't quite give them the same amount of pressure of only having 1 year left on his deal, because technically he's got 2 years left on his deal. If Arsenal decide to take up that option, they can, and then he's got 2 years left on his deal. And so it gives them a lot more room to manoeuvre in the transfer market. It gives them a lot more power in the transfer market when it comes to negotiations as well, because you don't really have to... if clubs are coming in with only 1 year left on his contract, obviously that valuation is going to be a lot lower. It doesn't have to be that low now, because Arsenal can say, look, he's got 2 years left, we're taking this option up, and so you've got to give us a little bit more money. So Arsenal in a good position with that. Whether it ends up being at Marseille, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm not expecting Matteo Guendouzi to be at Arsenal next season. I think that is certainly something that they will get done between now and by the end of the transfer window. So they might be at Arsenal at the beginning of the season, because they might not have had anything done by that, but obviously they've got another month until the window shuts. So we'll have to wait and see on Guendouzi, but certainly the strong reports at the moment doing rounds are that Marseille could well be his destination. We'll have to wait and see if that is the case. And now let's go on to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, another player who could potentially come into the reckoning with Arsenal looking at Ruben Neves. And this is not anything that I've heard that he's potentially involved in the possible discussions, but obviously we know that last summer Wolves wanted Ainsley Maitland-Niles. They bid for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Arsenal rejected that offer. I think it was about £25 million for Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Now not looking like the best decision of Arsenal to reject that. So potentially, if Wolves are still interested in him, maybe you can do something with Maitland-Niles to get Neves in and not have to commit to paying as much money for him. But Ainsley has been speaking to the Telegraph. If you haven't seen it yet, please do head over. I think it's Sam Wallace he's been speaking to. Read the full interview. But I wanted to, a couple of the quotes here were quite interesting. Here, Maitland-Niles clearly wants his future sorted very, very quickly, which is understandable as well. Obviously, spent the second half of last season on loan at West Brom, where he did impress, but West Brom have gone down. Didn't save him from relegation, and so you wouldn't expect he's going to join them on a permanent basis. He will no doubt want to stay in the Premier League, and he deserves to stay in the Premier League because he's a Premier League player. He's not a Championship player. But this is some of what Ainsley Maitland-Niles had to say when discussing his future. He says, I want a decision, I want some clarity, and then hopefully I can get to work with whoever I need to get to work with. I would like some kind of indication of what is happening, where Arsenal see me. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then I'll kiss Arsenal goodbye. It's been a long journey, but a proud one at that. Maybe they still want to do something and things could change. If not, there are always other teams. So pretty clear from those comments exactly what Ainsley Maitland-Niles wants this summer. He wants his decision his future sorted one way or another. Basically wants Arsenal to tell him what the situation is. Do you want me? If not, let me go. That's exactly what Ainsley Maitland-Niles is saying here. He continued, he said it would be easier to do it now than waiting for pre-season to kick in, and then everything is super busy and they can't answer their phones because they are doing too much other work. You know how the football world works. If I was to get a phone call from someone at Arsenal and they said they'd like a meeting tomorrow, then it would be easier that way. They can tell me whatever their plans they've got for the future for me, or if they want to sell me. I've heard they want to make some space in the squad and some money, so I'm not sure. I think we all expect that Ainsley Maitland-Niles, if a decent offer comes in for him this summer, then Arsenal will let him go. they'll look back on that decision last summer with Wolves when that bid came in and probably see it as a mistake. I can understand at the time why they rejected it. I thought at the time they should reject it. He just played so well in the FA Cup final, the FA Cup semi-final. He was looking like a real solid player in that sort of right wing-back role. Lost his place in the team. Clearly Mikel decided to move in other directions, and then he struggled for game time. So once that started happening, you have to look back at it and think it was probably a mistake not to sell to Wolves at the time. Probably going to end up losing them money as well. 25 million on the table last summer. You can't imagine they're going to get that sort of amount of money. Even though he did have a good loan spell at West Brom, but you're probably looking at a little bit less than that for Maitland-Niles. You do have the added bonus that he is homegrown, he is English, so that will raise his price tag. It just has to. It's the way it works in the Premier League. Personally, I think he'll probably end up going, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens with Ainsley Maitland-Niles in the coming weeks. Again, please do let me know what you think should happen with Ainsley. Should Arsenal keep him, or should they look to sell and bring in some money? All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. That's about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do have a good day. Enjoy the weather out there. We're getting closer to the Euros. And, enjoy that football fever. Speak to you very, very soon, people. Have a good day.